A pleasant day, everyone, most especially to our course instructor, Ma'am Krista Jane P. Megna. I am Chini Bitanguan, and today I will present to you my action research entitled Increasing Student Motivation in Acquiring English as a Foreign Language Through Language Learning Plan. And now, let's begin with context and rationale. Motivating students to learn another language is a multifaceted and ever-changing issue. Students who are having difficulty learning English as a foreign language due to a variety of factors and issues are frequently demotivated to learn. According to research on motivation in the EFL classroom, certain strategies can encourage learners to think more positively and thus be more motivated in their learning process. For instance, many scholars argue that motivation is one of the most important topics in today's field of EFL because it affects both how content is taught and how students learn. There are various factors affecting language teaching and learning processes, among which motivation plays an important role. Research has shown that those students who have higher motivation are more fruitful and competent in their learning. When we say motivation, it is a concept that could be described as a driving force that energizes humans' behavior. Also, research on auto-motivation is concerned with what makes a person want to learn a second language and what keeps him or her interested in learning it. However, as language is always socially and culturally connected, motivation to learn auto is a complex construct. On the other hand, demotivation is regarded as a flip side of motivation, which has negative effects on language learning processes and outcomes. That's why I came up with this study, because I've known and met a lot of students who are having trouble learning English due to a variety of circumstances and concerns, and they are frequently demotivated to learn. This issue, I believe, has a direct impact on the entire learning process, which is why I decided to conduct research into motivation in the EFL classroom and develop a language learning plan as my intervention program in order to discover whether certain strategies can encourage learners to think more positively and thus be more motivated in their language learning process. In fact, the data from Indonesia showed that teachers found it difficult to use English in class. The majority of the classroom instruction was given in the low variety of Bahasa Indonesia and in Japanese. The teachers claimed that it was due to the students' lack of motivation. However, the students' eagerness to listen to the teachers as models of English language expressions was excellent. Teachers must motivate students to learn English by improving their teaching techniques and speaking competence in class in order to achieve student integrative motivation because English is valuable to them, by Yulia in year 2013. The approach of communicative language teaching, which was created and first implemented in Western contexts with English as the first or the second language, is difficult to realize in Indonesia. It might be due to the language context itself, the insufficient knowledge of teachers themselves, big classes, limited time allocations, and inadequate learning materials. When the teachers do not comprehend the philosophy of communicative language teaching, the inappropriate sociolinguistic context, which is English as a foreign language, as well as the students' need for the language might be the problematic complications in the implementation. In brief, despite various attempts to improve communicative competence. Many scholars note that the motivation can affect the learner's attitudes and behaviors, and teachers' motivation, which has a negative impact on learning outcomes. In fact, when students are demotivated, second language learning is more difficult and less pleasant. Consequently, the achievement of expected learning outcomes becomes difficult. Furthermore, students' demotivation might lead to complete lack of motivation. It seems that successful language learning requires serious attention to and plans for dispelling demotivating factors, because any failure to learn a second language may be largely due to the existence of demotivating factors on the part of learners. Likewise, a premier basic education school in the province of Cavite attempted to investigate the status of language anxiety and motivation of the students. These instruments were simplified and translated to their first language to suit the understanding of the young learners of English. Results show that the respondents are highly motivated in learning the second language, but the general anxiety in English class is evident on one hand. These two significant factors showed strong correlation between anxiety and negative evaluation and motivation. On the other hand, there is a significant negative correlation of both anxiety and self-confidence in speaking English and general anxiety about English class to language motivation. So, looking at how anxiety works among the respondents, it was found out that they do not have anxious feelings on speech anxiety and negative evaluation in speech anxiety and self-confidence in speaking English. But general anxiety in English class exists. So, these results were supported highly by the language motivation as all factors were identified to be influential in building motivated learning system, especially in terms of intrinsic motivation and individual development. Among the components of motivation, only learning situations is considered to be a predictor of students' assessed anxiety. Findings suggest that motivation needs to be sustained in order to build positive second language learning. Otherwise, anxiety may threaten the dynamics of learning processes, which impedes their learning in English as a second language. The same scenario has been observed in a number of schools in the Kapalong area. Some students lose their willingness and interest in the lesson, which creates a significant barrier to effective language learning. As a result of these circumstances, some teachers are constantly developing and implementing language learning plans that are more appealing through various activities, creating supportive environments and positively reinforcing students in order to effectively foster students' interest and motivation in learning a language. So the purpose for the development of language learning plan was that many students who had tested out of the EFL program were not finding success in most of their classes. So there was really a recognized need for intervention in this area. So in this intervention, students will be monitored every 3 weeks to determine whether or not the student had made satisfactory progress or achieved mastery. So the main idea behind this plan is students can keep track of their progress, and this works great when they need motivation as they can look back at everything they have learned, which helps their language skills grow. And that leads students to their next step, which is creating clear goals with a deadline. So with clear goals, they can create a study plan that helps them move in the right direction while simultaneously building confidence in the areas where they are unsure. So once the teachers have successfully created a realistic language learning plan, it can help students to just put it all together and start learning, and that's how they can go about learning a language. And that concludes my presentation. I hope you grasped something important about my study, and thank you for listening.